My wife, who makes over $500,000 a year, has always insisted we go 50-50 on everything. Every single dollar, accounted for. One afternoon, I took our daughter, Sophie, out, and she begged for a $3 soft serve cone. Just as I was about to use Apple Pay, my phone died. In an instant, Chloe exploded. Right there, in front of everyone, she jabbed a finger in my face and screamed at me. Called me a manipulative jerk, shameless, a freeloader. Then she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me standing there, utterly humiliated, with our terrified, crying daughter. I'd always told myself she was just principled to a fault. That illusion shattered after her stepbrother, Leo, graduated high school. At his graduation dinner, she grandly announced she was buying him the entire Apple suite. iPhone, MacBook, the works. Then, for good measure, she added a condo downtown. A foster man has to be set up for success, she declared. He needs to walk out that door and have everyone envy him. But later that night, when Sophie looked up with wide, hopeful eyes and asked for a brownie sundae, Chloe's face soured. Go ask your dad, she snapped. Your expenses are his department. That's when it finally hit me. It wasn't that she didn't know how to love. It was just that her love would never, ever extend to me or our daughter. This time, I was done making excuses. I called a friend, a lawyer, and had him draw up divorce papers. This sham of a marriage was over. I wasn't playing anymore. When Chloe saw the papers, she was incredulous. Is this about the graduation gift I got for Leo? She demanded. Can you be a little more generous? Graduating is a huge milestone. A sister gets her brother a few presents, and you have to make a big deal out of it. I just shook my head, my voice calm. Chloe's brow furrowed with impatience. If it's not that, then what could it possibly be? It was about a brownie sundae. She let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. You're going to throw away a woman like me over a brownie sundae. Can you please be reasonable? She continued, her voice dripping with self-righteousness. We agreed from the beginning that the child's expenses were your responsibility. I don't see what I did wrong. I stared at the woman in front of me, this woman who seemed so perfect on paper, and wonder how I could have been so blind for so long. When we got married 7 years ago, Chloe laid down the law. We would split everything 50-50. From then on, our life became a line-item budget. Utility bills were divided down to the cent, grocery receipts were audited item by item, and on dates, we paid with separate cards. Every shared expense was calculated to the penny. After Sophie was born, it got worse. I'm the one who went through pregnancy and childbirth, she announced. You didn't contribute anything physically. From now on, you'll be responsible for Sophie and all her expenses. I tried to reason with her, but she just kept repeating her mantra of gender equality. Even when I had to quit my job to be a stay-at-home dad and was scraping by, even when Sophie got sick and needed money for the hospital, she stood by and watched me beg for loans from friends and family. Our marriage was a business partnership where emotion and finance were kept in separate, sealed-off accounts. It seemed fair on the surface, but the daily accounting had frozen my heart long ago. As we stood there in a tense stalemate, Leo pushed open the bedroom door without knocking, draping himself over Chloe's shoulders playfully. Chloe, he whined, I want to go to Aspen with my friend for a ski trip. No problem, she said, pulling out her phone without a second thought. I'll Venmo you $5,000. Buy first-class tickets. Don't rough it. A bunch of my friends are getting their driver's licenses now that school's out. I want to get mine in a car. I'll start looking at models this week. I'll buy you one. Chloe's blatant favoritism was a fist closing around my heart. Sophie had been in the hospital for a week with pneumonia, and Chloe hadn't visited once. Yet for Leo, she was all in, managing every detail, terrified of the slightest imperfection. I blinked, my eyes dry and stinging. The irony was suffocating. How could she so righteously neglect me and our daughter while showering Leo with cash without a second thought? Was it simply because I never complained, never fought back? Leo let out a whoop of excitement and, right in front of me, planted a loud, wet kiss on Chloe's cheek. My friends are all so jealous of how good you are to me, he said. They say you treat me more like a son than a brother. Chloe didn't seem to find anything inappropriate about an 18-year-old man acting this way. She just wrapped an arm around his waist, her voice dripping with affection. Of course I do. Spoiling you is my responsibility. Responsibility. She knew exactly where to stick the knife to make it hurt the most. A wave of exhaustion washed over me. I didn't have another word to say. I just grabbed my pillow and went to sleep in Sophie's room. The next day was Saturday. A package arrived early in the morning. It was a gift for Sophie for winning her dance competition. A Labubu, the vinyl toy all the hypebeasts were after. I'd spent nights refreshing the website just to catch a restock. Sophie hugged it. Her face lit up with a pure, unadulterated smile. Leo saw it and sneered. Wow, Ethan's spending big. The resale price on those Labubas is insane. Like $1,000 a pop. I've been wanting one forever and can't find one. Hearing this, Chloe turned to our daughter. Sophie, you're just a little girl. These designer toys aren't for kids. Give it to your uncle. Sophie's face crumpled as she clutched the doll tighter. No, all my friends have them. Chloe scowled. Sophie, why are you just like your father? So materialistic and always trying to keep up with others. She softened her voice into a condescending lecture. What have I taught you? When your uncle likes something of yours, what are we supposed to do? We share. With that, she reached for the doll. I stepped in front of her, my face a cold mask. If Leo wants one, you can buy it for him. I bought this for Sophie with my own money. Chloe's expression darkened. Ethan, this isn't about the money. It's about your parenting philosophy. It's flawed. Why are you exposing a kindergartner to this kind of luxury? She lectured. If you don't know how to raise a child, you should consult an expert. She is my precious daughter, and I want her to have the virtue of a simple, humble life. I almost laughed. It's true what they say. Sometimes you're so speechless you can only laugh. Why was it that her Leo could be coddled and spoiled, but my Sophie had to be frugal and austere? Seeing I wouldn't budge, Chloe turned to console Leo. It's okay, Leo. Don't get upset over a little kid's toy. I'll find a way to get you a limited edition one. That seemed to placate him. You promised you'd take me to Universal Studios today. Don't back out. I wouldn't dare. You little tyrant. Chloe's smile was like a spring breeze, but her eyes flickered with awkwardness as she noticed Sophie's disappointed face. Sophie, she asked, do you want to go to the theme park with Mommy and Uncle? Sophie jumped up and down. Daddy, yay, Daddy's taking me to the theme park. I was stunned. In the 5 years of Sophie's life, this was the first time Chloe had ever offered to take her anywhere. Reluctantly, I agreed. I couldn't bear to see Sophie disappointed. Later that morning, while I was trying to get some work done, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this the parent of Sophie Miller? Your daughter was found alone at Universal Studios. Please come to guest services to pick her up. I floored it all the way to the park. I found Sophie sitting on a bench, her head bowed, wiping tears from her eyes. The second she saw me, she leaped off the bench and ran into my arms, sobbing, Daddy, I couldn't find Mommy and Uncle. A park employee gave me a stern look. You parents really need to be more careful. How could you just leave a child on a carousel and walk away? Luckily, she's a smart kid. She knew to find a staff member for help and even had her dad's phone number memorized. I thanked the staff and spent the next half hour calming Sophie down. On the drive home, exhausted and scared, she fell asleep. My hands were still trembling on the steering wheel, my mind replaying the horror of what could have happened. What if some creep had grabbed her? What if she'd gotten hurt? What if I had lost her? Chloe and Leo didn't get home until evening, their arms loaded with shopping bags. Seeing the grim look on my face as I sat on the sofa, Chloe's smile vanished. Leo and I ate out. Where's Sophie? I cut her off, my voice tight. What did you do with her? Chloe's expression froze, panic flaring in her eyes. But then she glanced into the playroom and saw Sophie's small form, quietly building with blocks. The tension instantly drained from her body, and her usual composure returned. Something urgent came up. I guess I just forgot about Sophie, she said dismissively. It was my mistake. Ethan, the important thing is that she's okay. Chloe, I interrupted, my voice flat, my heart a dead weight in my chest. Let's get a divorce. A bitter taste filled my mouth. My eyes burned, but no tears came. A divorce? Chloe tossed her hair back, lifting her chin with a cold sneer. Are you sure you want to say that in front of her child? Do you want to scar her for life? She took a step closer, her voice turning into a weapon. Ethan, you're a father now. It's your responsibility to give your child a stable home. Can you stop saying things you don't mean just because you're angry? I know I messed up today, but she's fine now, isn't she? Why do you have to be so unforgiving? She accused. What kind of impact will it have on our daughter to see her father acting like a hysterical shrew? I stared at the woman spewing this twisted logic, my lips moving but unable to form a single rebuttal. Since Sophie's birth, she had always acted as if raising our child was my sole responsibility. She contributed nothing, not a dollar, not an ounce of effort. I had tried to change things so many times, only to be met with more disappointment. And now, once again, she was using my greatest weakness, my love for my daughter, to control me. As a father, I couldn't bring myself to tear her mother apart in front of our little girl, to drag all the ugliness of our marriage out into the open for a screaming match. In the end, I just turned and walked back to the bedroom in silence. Later, as I was reading Sophie a bedtime story, Leo suddenly pushed the door open. He sauntered in, a smirk on his face, and dangled a hand glittering with a diamond ring in front of my eyes. I just mentioned offhand at the park today that I thought someone's diamond ring was cool, he bragged. So Chloe insisted on dragging me to the jeweler. Said it was my coming-of-age present. She said whatever other people have, I have to have too. The diamond threw cold, sharp light across the room, and the triumph spilling from Leo's eyes was unmistakable. I glanced down at the plain silver band I'd worn for 7 years, the ring I had treasured as a symbol of our love, and a bitter, foolish feeling washed over me. Leo picked up one of Sophie's dolls from her nightstand, his arrogance practically oozing from him. You know what brand this is? He asked, tapping the ring. It's from DR. You can only buy one ring with your ID in your entire lifetime. The whole idea is one true love for life. Don't you think that proves that in Chloe's eyes, I'm the only one she'll ever truly love? I was taken aback. Ever since I first met Leo, when Chloe and I were dating, I'd sensed an unsettling possessiveness in him towards her and a deep-seated hostility towards me. But whenever I brought it up, Chloe would dismiss it with annoyance. Can you not be so disgusting? Leo's just a kid. He's just overly dependent on me. Now, that kid had grown into a handsome, almost unervingly effeminate young man. I could no longer deceive myself into thinking his feelings for Chloe were purely fraternal. Swallowing my disgust, I said calmly, I don't care about any of that. Sophie and I are going to sleep. Please leave. Leo didn't move. His eyes, laced with venom, bored into me. Cut the act, Ethan, he hissed. Weren't you the one who wanted a divorce? Then why are you still squatting in our house? What can you do besides using a kid to tie her down? It won't last much longer anyway, he added with a cruel smile. She doesn't give a damn about that little money pit you produced. The one she loves, the one she'll always spoil, is me. Sophie, hearing this, tugged at my shirt, her voice trembling. Daddy, why did Uncle call me a money pit? A vein throbbed in my temple. The rage I'd suppressed for so long finally erupted. Smack! I swung my hand across Leo's face, the slap echoing in the small room. My chest heaved, my pointing finger shaking. Leo, I'm warning you. Don't you ever say that kind of trash in front of my daughter again. My voice was a low growl. If she develops any kind of complex because of you, I swear I will make you pay. Leo clutched his reddening cheek, his eyes simmering with hatred. Then, abruptly, his expression shifted. His eyes welled up, his shoulders started to tremble, and his voice cracked with a feigned whimper. Ethan, why did you hit me? The door flew open with a bang. Chloe stormed in, radiating an icy fury. What's wrong, Leo? Why are you crying? Leo spun around and threw himself into her arms, tears streaming down his face. Chloe, I just wanted to see if Sophie was okay after today, and to apologize to her. But Ethan just hit me out of nowhere and he called me a sleazy homewrecker trying to seduce you. He sobbed, dabbing at his eyes with his sleeve as if he were the most wronged person on earth. Chloe's gaze turned glacial. Her voice rose, thick with rage. Ethan, have you lost your mind? Do you think being my husband gives you the right to hit people? I didn't. I started to explain, but she cut me off, her voice a roar. Don't you dare lie to me. If you didn't hit him, did he hit himself just to frame you? Ethan, I never realized how despicable you could be. No, Uncle is lying. Sophie, hearing Chloe slander me, cried out and grabbed her mother's hand to defend me. Shut up. Chloe shoved our daughter away, her eyes filled not with affection, but with pure disgust. You're just like your father, so young and already a pathological liar. I stared at the woman I had loved for nearly a decade, and I finally understood what people meant when they said the end of love was a cold, empty void. Leo, nestled in her arms, clutched at her dress, his shoulders shaking with sobs. Then, in a theatrical move, he pushed Chloe away. Chloe, don't fight with him because of me. I know I'm just a burden. I'll leave, okay? I'll just go. Before Chloe could react, he bolted from the room and out the front door. Chloe froze for a second. Then a panicked cry escaped her lips. Leo! She knocked over a chair as she scrambled after him, her voice trembling in a way I'd never heard before. Leo, wait. Don't run. The room fell silent, except for Sophie's quiet sobs. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. It was time to make the choice I knew was cruel, but necessary. Sophie, I said softly, Mommy and Daddy might have to live in different houses for a while. Would you be willing to come with Daddy? At the very least, life couldn't get any worse than this. Without a moment's hesitation, my tiny daughter looked at me with fierce determination. I want to be with you forever, Daddy. Hugging her tightly, all the pain and resentment in my heart balled up into a tight knot, making it hard to breathe. From now on, she was all I had. After I got Sophie settled, I started packing our things. I was ready to leave, but then Chloe returned. She collapsed onto the sofa, clutching her phone, her eyes vacant as she stared at the floor. She didn't seem to even notice the suitcases scattered around the room. After a long silence, she began pacing, muttering to herself. I've checked everywhere he could have gone. I can't find him. I've already called the police. What if he tries to do something stupid? What will I do? Her head snapped up, her eyes locking on me with pure hatred. Ethan, this is all your fault. Leo is just a kid. Why are you so possessive? You couldn't even tolerate him. If anything happens to him, before she could finish, her phone rang. She snatched it up. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw her freeze. The color drained from her face, leaving it a ghostly white. The phone slipped from her grasp and clattered to the floor. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Her eyes were empty, filled with utter despair. Suddenly, as if jolted by a realization, she stumbled towards me and slapped me with all her strength. The force sent me staggering back against the wall, my nose and mouth exploding with pain and blood. Her eyes were burning with hate. The police just called, she whispered, her voice a venomous hiss. They said a boy who just graduated high school jumped off the bridge into the river. They couldn't save him. Ethan, you killed Leo. You're a murderer. You want a divorce? Fine, you'll get it. And this time, there's no going back. I had no time for grief or drama. I finished packing, picked up my sleeping daughter, and drove straight onto the highway, leaving the city behind in the dead of night. My company had just opened a new office in Stanford, and they needed a project lead. The day I decided on the divorce, I had emailed my boss and volunteered for the position. I'd gotten the official transfer order that evening. I'd already found a rental online through an agent. In a twisted way, I had Chloe to thank for this. It was because of her obsession with splitting everything, even the cost of raising a child, that I was more than capable of taking care of Sophie on my own. From the moment she was born, through every sickness and sleepless night, I was the one by her side. I knew Chloe couldn't be bothered, and I would never trust her enough to leave my daughter with her while I went off to live my own life. But I could be the father who walked away, the one who took his daughter and started over. Before I left, I placed the signed divorce agreement on her nightstand. If she signed it, great. If not, I'd have my lawyer file a suit. Even if it meant a messy, public court battle, I wasn't going to spend one more day in that marriage. Once we were settled in the new apartment, I collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. I closed my eyes, but memories flooded my mind. Chloe and I had met in college. She used to be so gentle, so thoughtful. She'd use her scholarship money to buy me surprise gifts. After graduation, we were both broke, living together in a tiny, rundown apartment in a rough part of town. I truly believe she loved me then. She would spend her last $10 to buy me a cup of my favorite coffee and lie that she'd already eaten at work. I remembered holding her hand under the streetlights, holding her close in our cramped little bed. But time had worn all that away. It felt like everything changed the year Leo turned 10, after their parents died in a car crash. After that, I was no longer the center of her universe. Just as dawn was breaking, my phone buzzed. It was Chloe, her voice sharp and impatient. Ethan, I've been up all night. Can you stop this ridiculous game? Where did you take Sophie? I felt nothing. Did you see the divorce agreement on the nightstand? I asked calmly. Sign it, and we can schedule a time to finalize everything. There was a pause. Then Chloe's voice returned, laced with an awkward edge. The boy who jumped wasn't Leo. I just found him at the train station and brought him home. Ethan, since Leo is fine, why don't you just come back and apologize to him? We can put this whole thing behind us. I was baffled. Chloe, I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? Her voice hardened with anger. Are you deaf? I said I want you to apologize, she yelled. Leo almost killed himself because of you. Don't you think you were being too cruel to a boy who just became an adult? She paused, then adopted a magnanimous tone. All right, just bring Sophie and come home. She's too young for all this adult drama. I sighed. Chloe, I'm not coming back. If you don't agree to the terms in the agreement, my lawyer will be in touch. I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Ethan, are you insane? Do you think divorce is a game you can just play whenever you want? Think about Sophie. Chloe's voice was cold. She knew my weaknesses and thought she could control me with our daughter. But she was wrong. That house wasn't a home for us. It was a cage. Sophie will be happier with me than she ever would be in that twisted, dysfunctional house. A derisive laugh echoed through the phone. With you? In your dreams. Do you seriously think a court will grant you custody? Sophie is a foster, part of my family. You don't even have a place of your own. What makes you think you can fight me for her? I gripped the phone tighter, shocked that the woman I'd shared a bed with for years could be so vile. Chloe, you haven't taken care of Sophie for a single day of her life. Do you know what she's allergic to? Do you know her favorite foods? Do you know a single one of her daily habits? Why do you have to fight for custody? She's old enough to understand things now, I said, my voice trembling despite my resolve. She'll make the right choice. So what? Chloe's tone was smug, as if she'd already won. The judge will only look at our financial situations. You're just a low-level employee. Her expenses are only going to grow. How are you going to support her? She drew out the last words. Think it over carefully. If you don't want to lose your daughter, you'll come home. I didn't go home. Chloe's patience ran out. She went to Sophie's preschool, only to be told I had already unenrolled her. Then she went to my old office and found out I'd been transferred to Stanford. Fueled by rage, she drove to the new address my company gave her and found me. Ethan, don't you think you're taking this little act a bit too far? She spat. Did you think this would somehow threaten me? Have I not told you how much I hate it when people play manipulative games? I just nodded. Think whatever you want. All I want is a divorce. Chloe was furious, probably because she couldn't believe my audacity. After a moment of silence, she let out a cold, scornful laugh. Fine. If this is what you decided, don't come crying to me later. The county clerk's office is still open. Let's go now. I suppose my luck was turning. The state had just passed a law allowing for no-fault divorce filings to be processed anywhere in the state. 20 minutes later, Chloe and I walked out with a receipt for our filing, officially starting the mandatory 60-day cooling-off period. Chloe shot me a mocking look. Since you're so high and mighty, you can raise your daughter by yourself. I won't be paying a single cent of child support. I wasn't surprised. I just turned and walked to my car without a word. When I decided to leave, I never intended to take a dime from her. All I wanted was to get away from her, to have a life that wasn't steeped in misery. Chloe didn't even ask to see Sophie. She drove back to New York City that same day. Over the next few weeks, the algorithm started feeding me Leo's Instagram posts. He was updating constantly, practically flaunting their weird, inappropriate relationship for the world to see. I didn't bother avoiding it. If a post showed up, I'd even give it a like. There were pictures of him and Chloe on vacation, him getting a piggyback ride from her on a beach at sunset, their shadows intertwined and intimate. A photo from her company's family retreat, where she'd brought him along, hovering over him the entire time. A video of the sleek, two-door sports car she'd bought him, with a clip of her patiently teaching him to drive. There was even a picture of Chloe, who never cooked, in an apron, making him a late-night snack. Someone commented on one post, "Is calling your girlfriend sis a kink or something?" Leo didn't reply, but in what might have been a Freudian slip, it was the only comment on the post he'd liked. On his 18th birthday, Chloe booked a table at a Michelin star restaurant for a candlelit dinner, followed by a private fireworks show on the terrace. In the video, Leo wore a tailored suit, his every move exuding a seductive, effeminate charm that was far beyond his years. I watched it all with a blank face, pressing a hand to my chest. There was no pain anymore. It was like watching a story about two strangers. I even found myself thinking, well, with that kind of setup, it'd be a shame if nothing happened. That night, after I finished reading Sophie a bedtime story, she lay with her eyes closed for a moment before opening them again. "Daddy," she asked innocently, "my birthday is in a few days. Do you think Mommy will come celebrate with me?" I thought for a moment and decided to tell her the truth. "I'm not sure, sweetie. If you miss her, I can ask her for you." Sophie considered this seriously, then shook her head. "No, it's okay. Mommy will just say that my birthday is only 5 days after Uncle's, so we should celebrate together. I don't want to share with Uncle," she mumbled. "He likes matcha cake, and I think it's too bitter, but Mommy always forgets." My heart ached. I leaned down and kissed her cheek, pulling her into a hug. "Okay then, Daddy will celebrate with you. We'll get your favorite strawberry cake." The atmosphere at Leo's birthday dinner was perfect. Chloe, feeling celebratory, drank until she was pleasantly buzzed. She looked at the boy she had raised, her heart filled with satisfaction. Maybe it was reminiscing about Leo's childhood that made her suddenly think of her own daughter. She went into Sophie's room, a room she hadn't entered in weeks, and lay down on the small bed. She closed her eyes, inhaling the faint, milky scent that still lingered on the pillows. She drifted off to sleep. In her haze, she felt a warm body slide, and next to her, a familiar, earthy cologne filling her senses. The scent, mixed with the alcohol, stirred a memory. Ethan always wore that cologne, Terra de Hermes. The sheets used to be filled with his comforting, warm scent whenever they were intimate. When she felt fingertips gently tracing her brow, she turned and pulled the body into a tight embrace. Hot breath ghosted across her ear, and a few slurred words escaped her lips. "Ethan." The body next to her stiffened for a second, then held her even tighter, lips pressing against hers. Chloe greedily inhaled his scent, kissing him back. A deep sigh of contentment escaped her. She hadn't realized just how much she missed Ethan. Her hand slipped under his pajama shirt, her touch hot and unrestrained from the wine as she traced the muscles of his back. Ethan, Ethan, she whispered, her voice a broken sigh. Their clothes came off. Her pliant body moved with his, letting him place wet kisses in all the secret corners of her skin. The next morning, as sunlight pierced through the blinds, Chloe slowly woke up. A dull, hangover headache pulsed in her temples, accompanied by the unfamiliar feel of the body beside her. Her eyes snapped open. The messy, bleached blonde hair on the pillow was not the familiar dark black she remembered. She shot upright, her back hitting the nightstand and knocking over the framed photo of the three of them. The sound of shattering glass made the boy beside her stir, his eyelashes fluttering as he sleepily opened his eyes. The word died in her throat as fragments of the previous night came rushing back like a tidal wave. Leo, what are you doing here? She whispered, staring at the fresh love bites scattered across his chest. Regret and shame churned in her stomach. Chloe scrambled out of bed, her bare feet cold on the floor as she searched for her clothes. Among the scattered garments, she saw Ethan's silk pajamas tangled with her own flimsy lace underwear. She stared at Leo, horrified. It all clicked into place. Last night wasn't an accident. It was a calculated seduction by the boy she had raised. Chloe snatched a shirt and threw it on, her entire body trembling with panic and disappointment. Seeing the marks on Leo's skin, she steadied herself and said in a cold voice, Leo, I don't care what you were thinking. Last night was a mistake. Leo's face filled with disbelief. Chloe, what are you saying? I gave you my first time, and now you're just going to throw me away? Leo, you are my brother. You can only ever be my brother. I have a husband and child. How could I possibly be with you? You're lying. Leo jumped out of bed and threw his arms around her. You love me too. You don't love Ethan at all. Why else would you be so cruel to him? The naked boy clung to her, and Chloe didn't know where to put her hands. But she pushed him away firmly. Leo, that is between my husband and me, and it's none of your business. The person I love is Ethan. For you, I only feel responsibility. I was drunk last night. I thought you were him. I'm going to rent an apartment for you. I want you to move out immediately. Leo stared at her, his eyes filled with hurt and rage. So you're just going to use me and kick me out? Chloe, how can you do this to me? I want to be with you. Chloe ran a hand through her hair in frustration. Leo, I'm your sister. Have you no shame? Even if you don't, I do. If word got out that I was sleeping with you, how could I ever show my face in public again? Leo let out a short, sharp laugh, a crazed look in his eyes. You didn't forget there's a security camera in Sophie's room, did you? I've already saved last night's video. If you dare abandon me, I'll send it to everyone. I'll tell them you're the kind of monster who sleeps with her own brother. I will ruin you. Chloe stared at him in shock, unable to believe this was the same sweet, innocent boy she had raised. Leo just smiled, making no effort to cover himself, and casually sauntered back to his room to get dressed, leaving Chloe frozen in place, unable to process what had just happened. Then, a horrifying thought struck her. Ethan also had access to the security camera feed through the app on his phone. She fumbled for her phone, opened the app, and without even looking, deleted the entire recording from the previous night. On a morbid impulse, she thought back to the night Ethan left with Sophie, the night he and Leo had their fight in this very room. She had never understood why Ethan, who was always so gentle, had suddenly lashed out at Leo. She scrolled back 2 weeks on the timeline, found the date, and fast-forwarded to that evening. After watching the whole incident unfold, she began to tremble uncontrollably, her face as white as a sheet. Memories flooded back, and the terrible truth, pieced together from all the little details she had deliberately ignored for years, became horrifyingly clear. She knew now what she had done to the man who had once loved her more than anything. She knew why he had packed up his daughter and fled without even waiting for sunrise. She raised her hand and slapped herself hard. The stinging pain was a sharp reminder that her regret was real. Leo emerged from his shower, dressed in fresh, clean clothes. He wrapped his arms around her neck and climbed on her lap like a child. Hey babe, I'm hungry. Can we go get some food? The word babe was so jarring it made her snap. She shoved Leo off her lap, sending him tumbling to the floor. Then she lunged at him, her hands closing around his throat. What are you doing? Leo choked, clawing at her hands in terror. I should be asking you what you've done, she screamed, her face contorted with rage. What did you do to Ethan and Sophie? I was wondering why Ethan was so determined to divorce me this time. It was you all along, wasn't it? You were poisoning him against me. Leo's face turned a deep shade of purple, but he couldn't make sound. Chloe watched him gasp for air, his body going limp, before she finally let go, letting him slump to the floor. "Get out," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "From now on, I have nothing to do with you. You're no longer my brother." Leo scrambled on his knees and clung to her leg, sobbing. "Chloe, I love you. You can't leave me. I've given you everything." She kicked him away, her eyes devoid of any of their former warmth, now filled only with disgust. "Get out. You make me sick." The day of Sophie's birthday arrived. I was holding her hand, about to walk into her preschool, when I heard rushed footsteps behind me. "Sophie." The familiar voice made me flinch. I turned to see Chloe, laden with shopping bags and clutching a giant Labubu doll. It was a hot summer morning, but she must have been waiting for a while. Her forehead was slick with sweat, and her dress was wrinkled and limp. She was panting, strands of hair stuck to her skin, her eyes fixed on me and Sophie with an expression I hadn't seen in years. Deep, aching affection. Sophie's eyes lit up for a second before she quickly hid behind my legs, refusing to go to her mother. Chloe froze, the hand holding the doll suspended in midair. "Sophie," she said, her voice pleading, "Mommy came all the way here to celebrate your birthday. I brought you so many presents. Look, this is that limited edition Labubu you like, and this doll sings and dances." Before she could finish, Sophie mumbled into my side, "I don't want it." Chloe's smile faltered. She placed the gifts on the ground and pulled out a pink box with a strawberry cake design. "This is from that bakery you love. I had the owner make it fresh this morning." Watching Chloe's desperate, cautious expression, I remembered what she'd said at the courthouse, that our daughter was no longer her concern. The hypocrisy was staggering. "We don't need it," I said coldly, blocking her outstretched hand. "We're going to be late." I took Sophie's hand, walked around Chloe, and led my daughter into the preschool. I made a point of telling her teacher, "Please, don't release Sophie to anyone but me." When I turned around, Chloe was still standing there, looking lost. She forced a smile. "Ethan, I booked a table at that kid-friendly restaurant for tonight. We can all celebrate Sophie's birthday together." "No, thanks. I've already made reservations." My voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. I couldn't even be bothered to look at her. "Can I come with you?" My patience snapped. "Are you dying or something?" I shot back. "Is that why you've suddenly developed a conscience and motherly love? Let me remind you, we are divorced. The agreement is signed and sealed. I don't want your money, and our daughter has nothing to do with you." Chloe looked flustered. "Ethan, come back to me. Let's not get divorced. You're all alone here in a new city with Sophie. I'm worried about you." She knew Sophie was my weak spot, our only remaining connection. She thought she could use our daughter to reel me back in. "Sophie is still young. She needs her mother. She needs a stable home to grow up in. You wouldn't want her to be the child of a broken home, would you?" I laughed, a humorless, bitter sound. "A stable home? Please. All your love and energy is reserved for Leo. There's nothing left over for me and Sophie." Chloe grabbed my arm, her voice urgent. "Ethan, it won't be like that anymore. I made Leo move out. He's 18 now, an adult. I'm done taking care of him. Come home with me. From now on, it will just be the three of us, you, me, and Sophie. No one else will ever get between us again." I pulled my arm away. "Chloe," I sighed, "it's too late. The damage is done. We can't go back. In the 7 years we were married, you thought our arrangement was fair. But for me, it was torture. We'd buy a bottle of water, and you'd make me Venmo you for my half. Do you have any idea how that felt? You humiliated me in public over a $3 ice cream cone. You even insisted on splitting the responsibilities of child. You said pregnancy was hard, so it was only fair that you give birth and I do all the raising. I'm the one who raised Sophie from the day she was born. She was a sickly baby. I had to quit my job to take care of her. I worked freelance gigs at all hours, surviving on 3 hours of sleep a night because I couldn't stop. I knew you would never let me depend on you. You've probably forgotten, but when Sophie was 1, she was diagnosed with a serious congenital heart defect that required surgery. I begged you to help pay for it, and you told me her expenses weren't your responsibility. You'll never know how humiliating it was to borrow that money, especially since you turned around and spent $10,000 on a coding boot camp for Leo. My nose stung, and I had to take a deep breath to keep my voice from breaking. I thought I had let it all go the day I left, but saying it all out loud, I realized just how much I hated her. Chloe's face was flushed with shame. She had never realized how deeply these small, insignificant moments had wounded me. She grabbed my arm again, her grip desperate. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was so worried you wouldn't accept Leo. He has no one else, and he was always such a frail kid. I was afraid you'd resent him. But now I see how wrong I was. We won't split things anymore. I'll give you my entire salary. Every penny I earn will be yours. The house, the cars. I'll sign everything over to you, okay? I'll write a contract. We can get it notarized. If I ever wrong you again, I'll walk away with nothing. I smirked. Don't you think this is all a little too late, Chloe? I don't need any of that now. I can give my daughter a good life. We're better off without you. If you really want what's best for us, then let's just finalize the divorce when the cooling off period is over. The best thing you can do for us is to leave us alone. With that, I got in my car and drove away. Chloe didn't give up. She started driving back and forth between New York and Stanford every day. When she wasn't working, she was parked near my apartment, just waiting to catch a glimpse of me and Sophie. She brought me pineapple tarts from my favorite old bakery, the kind you have to wait in line for hours to get. She bought Sophie all the trendiest new toys. I didn't stop Sophie from accepting the gifts. They were still mother and daughter, after all. After a few of these visits, Sophie asked me, "Daddy, is Mommy really rich? Does that mean I'm a rich kid?" Her innocent question made me laugh, but it was followed by a pang of sadness. My daughter was 6 years old, and until now, she had never received a single gift from her mother. When the 60-day cooling-off period ended, I went to the clerk's office to get the final divorce decree. I was told Chloe had already withdrawn her application. My patience was gone. I immediately called my lawyer and told him to file a suit for divorce. I also had him file for a restraining order to keep Chloe away from our daughter. Less than a month later, an unexpected visitor showed up at my office. It was Leo. He looked terrible. His face was pale and drawn, and he had a dark, brooding maturity that didn't fit his age. As much as I hated him, I had watched him grow up. In my eyes, he was still just a misguided kid. I took him to the coffee shop downstairs and ordered him a hot chocolate. Suddenly, he dropped to his knees in front of me, his voice choked with sobs. "Ethan, please, I'm begging you. Just let me and Chloe be together." Chloe's pregnant with my child, he cried, but she's trying to get an abortion without telling me. I don't know what to do. He pulled a crumpled lab report from his bag, his tears making him look utterly pitiful. Even though I already knew his feelings for Chloe weren't innocent, the words hit me like a physical blow. I was shocked, disgusted. I just stood there, stunned into silence. Just then, Chloe burst into the coffee shop. She grabbed Leo by the arm and started dragging him out. "Leo, are you insane? Who told you that you could come here and talk to Ethan?" Leo clung to the table, refusing to leave. "I want Ethan to talk sense into you," he wailed. "You're pregnant with my baby, and you're still trying to dump me? How can you just use me and throw me away?" Chloe clamped a hand over his mouth, desperate to shut him up. "What are you talking about? I'm not pregnant. Now come with me." But Leo shoved her hand away. "You're a liar. You can't deny it. I dare you to have the baby and get a paternity test." I couldn't watch another second of their sick, twisted drama. I grabbed my bag and stood up to leave. Chloe lunged for me, trying to explain. "Ethan, don't misunderstand. I was drunk. I thought he was you. I swear it was only that one time. You wear your pajamas and your cologne to seduce me. I have a video if you don't believe." She stopped, her face flushing with embarrassment. Of course. How could she possibly show me a video like that? I yanked my arm away and pulled a sanitizing wipe from my pocket, scrubbing my skin where she had touched me. "Don't touch me," I said, my voice filled with revulsion. "You're disgusting." Leo refused to let Chloe get an abortion and began stalking her relentlessly. But Chloe was determined to terminate the pregnancy. During a heated confrontation, Leo finally snapped and posted everything online. The affair, the pregnancy, all of it. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Chloe was vilified. She lost her reputation, and then she lost her job. One day, Leo cornered her again, demanding that she divorce me and be with him. In the ensuing struggle, Chloe lost control and strangled him. Before she turned herself into the police, she transferred all of her assets, her savings, her investments, her property, into my name. After her confession, she had her lawyer finalize our divorce and legally terminate her maternal rights to Sophie. She sent a message through her lawyer. She didn't want Sophie to be shamed by having a murderer for a mother. I heard she was sentenced to life in prison. I never visited her. I sold a house in the city and bought a new one in our new town. Sophie and I started over, building a happy, quiet life, just the two of us.